Adam Czarnecki, who's a very good friend and colleague, also CHRP. He is, you sitting down? It's long. Human Resources, Health and Safety, Information Technology Manager at Great West Kenworth Limited. He's the recipient of the HRIA Award of Excellence. He's also an HR instructor at UFC Mount Royal, and he's the chair of the Advanced HR Curriculum Committee at MRU. He's a member of the board of the HRIA, so if you have suggestions on how to transform our profession, he's the right person to come and talk to. And I think that the best description, he's a proud geek. So remember that, because technical solutions are right up Adam's alley. And in HR, we need technical solutions that can make us sit at the strategy table.
So I'm here to talk to you about orientations. For a minute, just think back to the best first day you ever had on your first job. Just reflect upon that and just think of what were the elements of that day. And hopefully you'll see some of the things I'm going to talk about today, and how it really just always remember that first day. And that's the kind of emotions that you want to leave your first employees, because your employees will forget about what you said, what you did, but they'll always remember how they felt, right? Just like you remember the first best day of your career. So I'm going to share with you my first job that I ever got out of university and how that shaped the way I think about orientations. I graduated with a sociology degree, I know. My parents, very proud, because every family wants a sociologist. And like most sociologists, I didn't really have a lot of skills with a BA. And it was 2000, couldn't find a job, but I heard that you could make a little bit of money and pay your student loans by teaching English overseas. So I went online. I went to Dave's ESL Cafe. That was the only spot back then that you could actually get a ESL job. Connected with a school, and I went over. Never felt so alone in my entire life. I got off the plane, and there was a person standing with a Korean sign. Don't read Korean. Luckily, I saw the logo of the school, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Adam." Took me over, followed him. Didn't speak a word of English either. Drove to the school where I met the owner. Didn't speak English either. Then I finally met the translator, or the person in the school that spoke. And it's like, "Hi, let me introduce you to the teachers. There's only one of them right now." Okay, so teacher, but I wasn't going to point that out. Got introduced, teacher looked up, "Hey," and went back. "Okay, we'll see you on Monday. You're going to get back on the van with your driver, and just remember how he got you home, because you're going to have to come back on Monday by yourself." So as we're driving away, I'm looking at every sign, making notes, making sure that I'm not going to get lost. Luckily, and they left me on a Saturday. So I had Saturday by myself, Sunday by myself, started on Monday. Luckily, somebody gave me their uncle's, nephew's, niece's, former roommate's telephone number that also was in Korea, and said, "If you ever need somebody," so I was dialing. They showed me over the weekend, introduced me to their friends, welcomed me, and I felt a little bit better. But it was always a little bit odd at school. I didn't really feel welcome. The purpose of our school, I was there to be an English teacher, but the purpose of the school, because it was a very competitive environment, was that children had fun first, English second. You had to make sure, because, by the way, I was an English teacher to 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds. Can 3-year-olds speak English? They can't even speak Korean. So, but they had to have fun. They had to love their teachers. It had to be engaging. And if they learned a little bit of English on the side, fantastic. But it was competitive because if they didn't like the school, they would go somewhere else. And all of the students had to be A+ students. Because if you gave them a B, they would take them to another school, right? And you couldn't give any negative comments, any negative report cards, so you learned how to do passive-aggressive comments, such as, Jimmy really enjoys helping others before finishing his own work, or Jimmy can't wait to answer the questions, sometimes forgets to raise his hand. But you couldn't criticize the kids. One of the teachers liked to have a little bit too much fun and liked to smoke a little Mary Jane. The problem in Korea was drugs, whether it was pot, cocaine, heroin, hashish, whatever it may be, it's all on the same level. It's all illegal. There's no good entry drugs, bad drugs. So it was very difficult to get. That's okay. He had a plan. He got somebody back home to FedEx the pot. Don't worry, it was in a candle, so you couldn't smell it. And so he got them to FedEx pot over, and they let it through for 3 months, and they surveyed the school, the teachers, everything like that, who was smoking, who was going with who, where was, because it was a big drug operation in Korea. And so 2 months into being in Korea, on the first day of school, the police came in and raided the school, and 40% of our teachers ended up in jail. And we were left with empty classrooms, 40% of our staff. I'm here, so it wasn't me. And I, in 2 months, became one of the most senior teachers and most experienced teachers in the school. Because everyone else hadn't had time to do the things and get in trouble and things like that. So the principal comes to me and says, we need teachers. Well, lucky for her, I had a sociology degree. And over the course of the last 2 months, I met hundreds and hundreds of teachers. And of course, you would, hey, you're not Korean? I'm not Korean. We're best friends. Where are you from? Why are you here? So you would have really intimate conversations about your life back home, your motivations, why you wanted to be here, that sort of thing. And what I found was there were 6 types of people that were in Korea. They weren't doctors, they weren't lawyers, they weren't IT professionals. These are people with sociology degrees, anthropology degrees, philosophy degrees, art history. And so I started, because of my training, I started kind of categorizing people of what kind of teacher they were. So the first person I met was the party animal. This was the person that loved life and drinking. And they heard that Korea was a great place to make some money and was a great place to party. They had a lot of fun. They had a zest for life. They just were a happy, go-get-it person to be around, as long as they had alcohol. Then you met the penny pincher. The penny pincher was in Korea to make money. It was a good place to make money. You could actually make about $5,000 a month teaching English. So they were there paying off student loans, student debts, whatever it may be, saving up for a mortgage. You could do it. But they were there, and they wouldn't do anything extra unless you paid them for it. Then there was the runner. The runner was running away from something. Relationships, problems, domestic issues, strong family influence that they wanted to get along. Not only did they bring luggage along, they brought a lot of baggage along. And what they found out in 2 or 3 months, that baggage came with them. And what they were trying to run away from was still there. Then we met the teacher. The teacher, there's 2 types. One, they're about to get fired or have a mental breakdown, and so they had a sabbatical, and they were shipped over to Korea to teach children. or they were brand new out of university. No one could, they had no experience, so they went overseas to teach and get experience. Then we got the traveler. The traveler heard it was a great place to actually travel, and it was very cheap. I got to go to about 37 countries, $500 a pop. Vietnam, China, Japan. You could go over a weekend, 5-hour flight, and see wonderful things over a long weekend. So it was a great place to travel. So these people were coming in and just using it as a traveling hub, earning some money. When they had enough money, they would go. And then we had the socially awkward. These individuals didn't fit really back home. They didn't have a lot of friends. They could speak Klingon. They knew all the words to Monty Python and the Holy Grail. But these people had a lot of passion and very creative. They could entertain you, and they were just socially awkward, and it just made them a gem. And what made them a gem was they turned into a rock star in Korea, because all of a sudden, people would welcome them with all their little awkwardness and sort of social quirks, but Koreans loved to hang out with them because it was a free way of learning English. They didn't have to pay for it, because in order to get a conversation teacher, it cost $35 to $40 an hour. So you make a friend with a foreigner, free language lessons, you became a verbal prostitute. I'm okay with that. So, let me ask you this. Who do you think made the best teachers? The party animal, penny pincher, the runner, the teacher, the traveler, or the socially awkward? It's a trick question, because all of them were very competent teachers. It all depended on the school that they were a part of. So our school, fun was number one. So let me rephrase that, and let's do a vote. So fun was number one. Teaching English was number two. Who says the party animal made a good teacher? If they weren't hungover. The penny pincher? The runner? The teacher? The traveler? And the socially awkward. The socially awkward and the party animals made the best teachers for our school. The party animals actually turned drinking games into kid games. Alphabet Pong was a very popular one, where you would bounce into a cup with an alphabet and you would have to do something or say something. These were very creative individuals. Same thing with the socially awkward. Very creative, passionate individuals. So these two types of teachers really fit well into our culture. And I had an opportunity to rebuild our culture into our school, because we were short 40% of the teachers. And through the networking, through meeting individuals, I was able to get a good group of people that normally would have never been friends or never hung out together, but we shared the same common values of fun and inclusiveness. When a person comes into your organization or goes into a new country or a new position, they're always concerned, did I make the right position, right choice or the wrong choice? Anxiety is very high, and it's your responsibility as a community, as a department, not HR, not the manager, your entire department, to make that person feel welcome. And so what we did and what we realized as a community of teachers and as a community of the school, the first 30 days was critical, because you had the rosy, oh my, I'm in a new country, everything's great, everything's different, everything's new. And then the 60-day mark would kick in. I miss home, I miss Wendy's, I miss TV. The sort of, you started to get homesick. And unless they had a strong social network to keep them in Korea, they would do what was called a midnight run. And the midnight run is, we got paid once a month on Fridays. On Mondays, they never showed up. Because one of the things that you had to do is, if you broke your contract, you had to pay your airfare back. So it was a lot easier to do a midnight run and not pay back $1,200 than it was to say, you know what, things aren't working. I'm going to leave. We also had a lot of teachers have emergency back homes, and a lot of people got really sick really quickly. And so we realized it was critical if we could get them, bring them in, show them how wonderful Korea could be. In the first 60 days, we had them. If they had that social network to pull from, so they wouldn't be lonely, so they knew sort of the lifestyle of Korea. So what we did is we wanted to make it a celebration when a new teacher came in, that they did make the right choice, that they were welcome on board. Great to have you here. We would pitch in it as teachers and make a pot, right? That pot might be $10 a person, $20 a person. What we would do then is we would get them a map of Seoul, and in Seoul, this was before Google Maps, in Seoul we would actually put in where the school was, where you lived, where kind of interesting places such as markets, other sort of bars, good areas to go visit, so they had a map. And this map was magical. And the reason why this map was magical, if you were in a city of 14 million, and you pulled out this magical map and waited long enough, somebody would come to you and say, hello, are you lost? My name is Jun Shin. It is nice to meet you. And they would help you out. Because again, verbal prostitute, they could practice English. Because they were very good at the structural part of grammar, spelling. They had better spelling than me. But the conversation piece was missing. So it was, people were always drawn to foreigners so they could practice English. So knowing that little trick, if you're ever lost, whip out your magical map. We would get them cell phones. Used cell phones, flip phones were very cheap, $10. And we could prepay them with another $10. So for $20, they had a communication device. And we would input every teacher's telephone number in that cell phone before giving it to them. It was a present. Here you go. Because US, North American phones and Korean phones were on a different wavelength, they didn't work. And so right away, they had communication at any point, at any time with any of the teachers, and then they have to go, what's your number, that awkwardness? We would give them a transit card. The transit card was free. We would pre-populate it with $10. And the subway system was very easy if you knew how to do it. And so we would give them a transit card, prepaid with $10 for it. It would give them about a week's worth of travel time. And we would show them how to use the metro. And we gave them a book. Here's all the weird things about Korea and all the different things, how it is from Korea. And we would quiz them on it to make sure that they read it. Because this was important to understand the little quirks about Korean culture. Then we would throw them a party. To be honest with you, every weekend was a party, but we would tell them it was for them. And we would introduce them to as many people as possible. And we would make the effort to, whenever we were going out or doing something, to always include them in. They eventually found their own group, their own niche, their own clique, whatever it may be, but we owed, until such point as they said, no, that's okay, or multiple times they would say no, we would always bring them out. And the purpose was to introduce them to as many people as possible so they could click. So they didn't click with everyone, but we had to make sure that their social network was very strong in Korea. Because as soon as they started getting lonely, homesick, we would lose them. We would actually prepare their lesson plans for a full month. We each, as a community, took a day and we prepared their lesson plans for them. And the reason why was, usually it was, you're an English teacher, you speak English, create a lesson plan, here are your resources. Thank you very much. And no one else wanted to do it either because it was hard. Anyone have done a lesson plan? It's not a lot of fun. Ellie, not a lot of fun. We would, for the first week, actually substitute their classes and make sure that the teacher spent a day with one teacher in every single classroom to see their teaching styles, get some ideas, exchange ideas, and just see how the process works. So even for the first week, they wouldn't actually do any teaching. We would job shadow with them. And after school, we would take them to places, show them, until such point as they get, no, you know what, I'm okay, I'm tired, I just want to go home. No problem. But we would always make sure we try to include them in everything. We would show them hidden markets and hidden places that only people that have been there a really long time. There's no way you could get into, in the year 2000, deodorant in Korea. Koreans didn't use deodorant and they didn't smell. It was a different type of food. You know what makes North Americans smell? Cheese and milk, right? It's diet that gives you body odor. And so Koreans didn't have that issue. There was a lot of smelly North Americans that didn't smell back home because we had deodorant. So just showing them a simple deodorants or giving them a list hey, before you come, make sure you, bedding was another one, pillows. They didn't have pillows, normal pillows as you and I would call pillows. And so we would tell them, bring deodorant, bring pillows prior to them actually coming in. And we would tell them about the places to stay away from. Don't go there. Don't do that. Don't smoke pot. And we would share the urban legends of what happened to the school. And our school was infamous. It was infamous to what happened to our teachers. And we would show them everything. Absolutely everything, from how the phone works, how the metro works, how the doors work, everything. We treated them like a complete newbie that had no idea of what to do. That's the kind of psychology and mind frame that you have to get in with your people. Your people don't know anything about your company. It's a new country for them, with a new language, with new customs, with new terminology, traditions, myths. You're taking that for granted because you're living it. It's normal to you, but it's not. Each time a person comes into a new organization, it's a brand new country. We'd give them cheat sheets and notes and assistance, making sure that they knew the sort of the nuances of everyday life. What we were trying to do, our number one goal, was to reduce the anxiety of that individual. Give him at least, because it's already stressful being a new country in a new job. So we tried, our effort was to reduce that stress. When you're in your new position, the first thing you're doing, did I make the right choice? Now, if you hated your previous job, the choice is easy, right? I'm just glad to get away from that. But if you actually left a good position for an opportunity for promotion, for developmental growth, whatever it may be, that's very scary. Starting a new position, been somewhere for 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, you knew the language, you knew the culture, you knew the customs, you have to learn everything all over again. So treat your people like the brand new traveler to your organization, a new person. They don't know anything. They don't. Don't assume that they do. They don't know where the bathroom is, where the lunchroom is. Is there a microwave in the lunchroom? Is there a refrigerator in the lunchroom? Is there a Subway nearby? I mean, Subway, the lunch. In Calgary, there's no Subway. That's one of the things when I was recruiting foreign workers, I told them, make sure you have $5,000 to buy a car. Because a lot of foreigners, I'll just take the transit. No, you don't take the transit in Calgary, not unless you want a 4-hour commute each day. So your whole purpose is when a new person comes in, is their anxiety increases. And if you are not prepared for them, if you aren't ready to welcome them on board as a department, not as an individual, as a manager, as a supervisor, as a department, as a unit, as a team, their anxiety increases. Your purpose is to try to get that down as quickly as possible. And the only way to do that is by having them trained, knowledgeable, and have an atmosphere of welcome. You've made the right choice. Orientations are a first impression. If they have a good first impression, you can make a lot of mistakes. If they have a bad first impression, it's going to take a really long time for them to turn around, and they'll always look for reasons why they made a mistake. Mental stress is huge. It's the #1 long-term and short-term disability claim that we are facing today. Some of this stuff is due to stress within the workplace of people not knowing what job they're supposed to do, not having the knowledge, not having the training, or having a department that's not welcoming them. Do you want to go to work where you're not welcome? Where people could care less whether you were sick or not? No one wants that. Everyone wants to feel unique. They want to feel special. They want to feel welcomed into that department. And I'm saying department specifically, not company. Department. Your company can do whatever it wants, but if you, as a department, do not welcome that new employee and everyone in that department, even Grouchy Bill, right? Or at least talk about Grouchy Bill and how you shouldn't talk to him on Mondays. And if you don't, teach them about your culture, about your language, about your traditions. They're going to just be looking at what other people are doing, how other people are interacting, talking, and they might be looking at the wrong people. They might be looking at B players, C players. Because guess who wants to gravitate to brand new employees the most? A's, B's, or C's? C's. They need allies. They need to tell people how awful this company is. What are you doing? You should hear about how they screwed me on my first month. Do you want those individuals to be the first impression that they get? So, in order to do a proper orientation, you need to have a welcome package. Preparing them them coming to your organization. This is your employment offer and all the information that comes with even before starting on the first day. We think about orientations as on day one. Because usually people don't start a week, 2, sometimes 3 before. So you should be really sending out as much information ahead of time to start that anxiety going down, not on the first day, but before they even start. A welcome party, and I don't mean you need confetti and balloons and the whole thing, but actually making that first day special, memorable, awesome. So I ask you again, your first most memorable, awesome first day, did you feel welcome? This is the group participation part. Okay. Did you feel, how many of you felt welcomed on the first day? 1, 2, there you go, thank you. Otherwise it would have been a really bad example. How stuff works. Phones are different from company to company. Some hit 9, some hit 4, some have to hit this button, red one before, whatever it may be. Printers, fax machines. Preparing the workspaces. If they're replacing someone, make sure their stuff that who they're replacing isn't there. Crackers, soda bottles, pictures of their wives and spouses. Kind of awkward. Who's this? Oh, never mind. Sorry, we forgot. And an introduction to their new life, their new country, their new culture. It's key. You have to remember, this is a traveler from a far distant land that might have some similar experience and is going to contribute, but they're a foreigner. They're an outsider. They feel anxious. You need to reduce that. One of the ways that you need as an organization, and we called it value proposition previously, but purpose. What's your purpose? What's your purpose in the organization? Not your position, but what's your purpose in the organization? Mayo Clinic, if you ask anyone, what's your purpose? They will say, to save lives. That's our purpose. So much so that if you ask a janitor, what's your purpose? They will say, to save lives. And then you'll go, no, well, you have a mop and you have a bucket. Obviously, what do you do here? I save lives. Okay, mop, bucket, how do you save lives with a mop and a bucket? If I don't clean the OR room of all pathogens and bacteria, I put my next patient in harm's way and I could kill my next patient. I save lives. So let me ask you, what is your position's greater purpose? What are you there for? I wasn't there to teach English. I was there to ensure that kids had a good time. What is your position's greater purpose? And are you sharing that purpose through the recruitment, selection, orientation, and performance review? What is your greater purpose? Orientations tend to be habits. And we have a lot of company habits. Habits are company culture. You have a lot of habits in your organization. The way you interview, prepare, do jobs, train, treat peers, performance reviews, terminate, it's all habits. And the reason why they're habits is because we're lazy. What ends up happening is, this is your basal ganglia, that blue part. This is where all your habits form. And what ends up happening is your brain goes, okay, I know how to do this, I'm gonna go shut down in autopilot. And I'll give you an example. How many of you have driven to work, got there and go, I hope I didn't run any red lights, right? That's your basal ganglia kicking in, and that's what you do with your job processes. So unless you actually have standard procedures, checklists, and forms, a process in your orientation, you're gonna form back to your old habits and you're gonna do the least amount of work. So you need to have a standardized process in your orientations. Best practice would always be one-on-one and in group. Unfortunately, I'm a realist and that's never going to happen. So one-on-ones, groups, videos, self-studies, a hybrid of that. It's better to sit somebody in front of a video and tell them about how wonderful your culture is than have absolutely nothing at all. You need to have some kind of standardized process in your orientations. Before you even start, you gotta set the tone. How many of you have been in a situation where you've been interviewed by HR, manager, whatever it may be, you go to your first day and it goes, come, let me introduce you to your supervisor. This is Mike. Hi. You've never met Mike. Mike was never in interviews. This is the person you're gonna spend the most time with, your supervisor who's gonna rank you on your wage, on your performance, whether you keep that job or not. Mike should have been on the interview process. Mike should have been the one calling and say, hey, you got the job, congratulations. Here's the information. HR is going to send you a package with everything that you need to know. Make sure you read it carefully. If you have any questions, give me a shout. Before they even start, you develop a relationship with the supervisor. It's not some HR email that gets sent, it's a real person. So make sure whoever's doing the hiring or whoever is ultimately the supervisor, they're involved in the recruiting process, interview process, and they're the ones that hire. Because what ends up going to happen is any problems that they have, they're going to go to the person that the first impression was that is the real boss, the manager who actually hired them, not Mike. So make sure you make that link right away before the employee even starts that Mike is the go-to person. Employment offer. Give him all the information up front. All the, how much they're going to get paid, when they're going to get paid. This is on your cheat sheets that I provided. I do want to hit a couple points. Make sure you explain the role and the purpose of the organization, of the role, of why they're being hired, the purpose. Next one, expectations. We all have performance reviews, right? When do we see our performance reviews? Usually a week before our performance. Send it along with here's how we do performance. This is what your performance review is going to look like. Sit down in the orientation and say, Here's how we're going to mark you in 3 months, in a year. Show the performance review and make sure it matches the purpose. Because if your purpose and what your performance review are not aligned, well, there's going to be a lot of expectations not being met on both sides. Deductions, and this is just for legality, make sure you're explaining everything. Otherwise, you're stealing from your employees if you don't get them to agree to deductions. Even short-term, long-term disability, learned that from recruitment, from temporary foreign workers. Probationary period. If you don't put it in writing that they're on probation, guess what? They're a full-time employee, and if you fire them, you got to pay them. Alberta Employment Standards is not going to touch them, but the civil side, you have a case. And then this is a very interesting one that's being asked now of lawyers are recommending an agreement of change. And that agreement of change says, this is your current position, salary, wage, and benefits, but they're not guaranteed. And they're not guaranteed for life, and you're not guaranteed to have a job. I'm paraphrasing. It's not that doom and gloom, but it pretty much says, this is what your current situation is, but that's not to mean, because a lot of employers are getting in trouble with employment offers saying, well, it said here I was going to work 8 till 4. That's what my contract says. And unless you have an agreement of change, they're technically right, because that's what they agreed to. So have a standard employment template with all the information wherever it is for your organization. And send out an orientation package of benefit booklets, company handbook. Is there any secret sauce in your company handbook? No. There's no trade secrets in your company handbook. Send it out, let them read through it. If they don't, no problem. Obviously, they don't need to read it, but have an option for them to do so. Outline how their orientation process is going to be. Include the current company newsletter. Introduction of the team. Hey, this is the people you're going to work with. Pictures, names attached to it. Group department pictures with people's names to them. So they, on the first day, you know how you meet 30, 40 people, right? It took me, I think, 6 months to learn everyone's names in our company of 100. There's some people that still don't know other people's names, and they've been in the company 2, 3, 4 years. You sure, is there somebody in your company that you've seen, you just never said hello to? Or don't know their names? And now it's awkward because it's 3 years later. Hey, you! So, where to park? Provide them with a map. Arrows, Google Map, overview, where to park, when to arrive, who to see, what's the dress code? How many of you have come into work completely overdressed? And completely overdressed for like a week and then go, okay, maybe I should tone it down a little bit. Where the bathroom is. What to bring on your first day of lunch. Can I heat it? Can I nuke it? Can I keep it in a fridge? These are the things that they don't know. You just take for granted. Of course we have a mini oven. What company doesn't have a mini oven? Or where to buy lunch. If they're a millennial, they don't know how to make lunch. So provide them, here's Subway, here's Wendy's, here's Timmy's around if you don't want to bring your lunch or your parents can't make lunch for you that day. Give him a buddy, give him a trainer. Now, your trainer doesn't have to be an A player. It's nice if it's an A player, but it should be a person that is willing to give them the time and energy and is not going to go, what do you want now? Every time they ask a question. They should understand that, yes, I am there to help and answer any questions at any time, and I'm going to be interrupted for the first 3 months non-stop. Get that expectation out there. You're going to be interrupted, you're going to drop, you're going to be hold this person's hand. Give him some useful stuff. Don't give him the sweatbands from the 1980s that you can't get rid of. Give him a mug. Give him something they can use every day. Do we like to get presents? Absolutely. Do we like to get useful presents that we can use? Yes. How many of you have gotten swag and you're like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to throw this away? There's a lot of money being wasted on swag because it's not useful. It's not meaningful. Give him a jacket. If you're a part of that organization, if that's one of your things, give him a company jacket to wear. Personal tour, introduction to the team. Whether Mike should be given the personal tour, let's not forget about Mike, and he should be walking around everyone introducing. I was giving a talk, and I had a principal in the class, and I said, when a new teacher starts, do you introduce the teacher to the custodian of the school? No. Why not? They're going to be working together. Some kid's going to pee on the floor, throw up, whatever it may be, vandalize. They're going to have to eventually work together. And they're like, never thought of that. But yeah, you need to have an inclusive philosophy within your orientation. Introduce them to everyone. They're not going to remember everyone. But at least you've made that first step, that first connection. Review policies, documentation. I highly, highly recommend that you take them out for lunch. Uh-oh. Now I don't know how long I am. How much time do I have left? 5 minutes. 5 minutes? Take them out for lunch. Whether, if possible, group lunch. Tell them it's not an everyday occurrence. But take them out as a group. Worst case, Mike and that person should be going out for lunch. Whether it's Subway, Wendy's, or Chianti's, whatever it may be. But you will learn so much more on the first day about each other over lunch than you will working together for 40, 80 hours in that week. Guards are down. And you have to check in on them much more frequently than you do on your employees that have been there 2, 3, 4 years on a weekly, monthly basis. Managers, if you have a new employee, or Mike, don't go on vacation. How many of you have been, we have a new employee and the manager goes on vacation that week? And you're not really sure what to do on that? It's your responsibility that you hired this individual. Don't go on vacation. Don't plan to get a lot done on that first week. You're going to be doing a lot of hand-holding. Provide them with meaningful work. You should provide that personal tour of everything and visit them frequently. So, set up the work area. That goes without saying. But think about this. What about the buzzwords and acronyms that you use, the new language that they're going to learn? Maybe that's something that you can do. Org chart. Where do they fit into the big picture of things? Where do they sit? Sit down with them. Explain the company culture, purpose, responsibilities, expectations. Work together as a group or individually. What's the expectation? Provide examples of success. These are our successful people. These are the people that didn't, you don't use their names, but you give the myths and examples and the storytelling of how people didn't succeed in this organization and the people that succeeded in the organization. Talk about breaks, OT, vacation, paydays. You all know this. It's common knowledge to you. But it's a brand new country, it's a brand new culture, it's a brand new language for these individuals. We actually provide these videos, and one of the things that we do with young workers is we show them a video of a young worker breaking their back on a forklift. And I know it's a little not suitable for work, and it's simulated. It's not like they're actually breaking their back. But the idea is to ask questions. You don't know everything, and if you try to do something that you're not trained on or in, you're going to get hurt. We talk about payroll, benefits, policies, in-person, one-on-one, explaining these things. Because we're big on health and safety. These are things that we have huge policies, but we pick key policies to discuss. And then we go over the employment contract. So we provided them with the employment offer. that they sign, and now we sit down and we do the employment contract, which is verbatim of the contract, just in case they didn't read everything, explaining what everything is. If they're new to a city, we make sure to include restaurants, grocery stores, community events, centers, where to get childcare. If you're from Ontario and Quebec, you expect childcare to be $250 a month. And areas to avoid. Orientation is a process. It's not a one-day event. It's not a two-day event. It's not a week event. It's a year-long process. And the sooner you can get them included, the sooner they feel a part of the community, the sooner they won't want to leave and they will want to learn more and be a part of that community. And the only way you can do that and to make sure is create a process and have a checklist of things that you made sure that you've done with every single person so it's consistent. So everyone has shared in the common knowledge and experience of the company's culture, language, traditions. And there's a legal requirement. If somebody gets hurt and they haven't actually been properly trained in those duties, your company's liable. So 90 days, key. First impressions, you need to address it within the 90 days. Any issues, any kind of, you're unsure about the individual, they're not going to get better. Address issues right away, and it's key. The first 90 days are critical to the orientation of the new employee. Your department is responsible for that orientation. Here are 12 motivators in order for a person to feel motivated in an organization, in a department. Sometimes you can hit all 4, sometimes you can't. So remember, well, I'm going to skip this part to my dramatic ending here. So, you want to treat your employees as a new traveler, somebody who's scared, who doesn't know anything about your organization, your culture, your languages, and you want to turn them into an A player that's excited to be there. Thank you.
So Landis, you were talking about in your presentation about bonuses, and I think part of that, what comes to my mind immediately is pay for bonus. I'd like to know how many not-for-profits actually have bonuses in their compensation structure, because that, in my mind, has been taboo in the past. I want to know if that's changed.
We have a bonus structure, and it's funny because we're actually in the middle. We're with Junior Achievement. We're in the middle of kind of reviewing how we do it, but we basically have measurable outputs for each staff member, and it's based on a percentage of their salary. And we often end up paying out maybe not a full bonus, but a percentage of that amount almost every year. Like to the point where I definitely, if I was looking at another job offer, I would consider a percentage of my bonus as my current compensation. It's pretty guaranteed. It's not. I mean, it's not like we put it on our CRA reports or anything that we have a bonus structure, but it definitely is in all of our reports as part of our personnel cost. But it's not broken out. Like it wouldn't be out there as public knowledge that we have a bonus structure. Yeah.
Until now.
I was just going to say that at my place of employment, we sometimes, because of the funder issue, we maybe give an extra week vacation as a one-time bonus, so stuff like that. So try to give either time off or learning development opportunities and whatnot, as opposed to a monetary bonus. Okay. Yeah.
We do a very hit and miss sort of bonus structure. It depends on how much money we have in the budget in a given year, what's gone on in that particular year, and the board sort of approves it. It might be a small stipend, but it's kind of nice at the end of the year when you're not expecting it. And yeah, it's really dependent on how much money we have in the budget in a given year and how much we're looking into next year. This year we're not giving any bonuses.
We have what we call a goodbye afternoon, which is when somebody has done a great job or has been working really hard or has taken on extra responsibility. I just go in and say, goodbye, we'll see you tomorrow or on Monday. And what has happened, which just really brought joy to my heart, was that it's their colleagues that are recommending goodbye days for each other, rather than, hey, look what I did. And that's a real, to me, a symbol of a team, good team.
So I've come into an organization with a culture that was very, how shall I put this politically correct, very laissez-faire about work, and trying to create productivity and efficiency while still maintaining that fun atmosphere that they appreciated has been really difficult. And for people that we've brought in that are new, the expectations are clear. Not my old employees, but the employees that were there previously have there's a lot of resistance. It's always resistance to change. And I'm just wondering, like, a lot of the strategies that I've heard are about bringing your employees forward, and when you have these naysayers who just, well, this sucks. Like,
we've done it this way before.
Yeah, and it's not fun, and you're just really difficult to work with, and nothing else will work other than to go back to that laissez-faire work style, which we can't have. How do you bridge that? Because the compensation, like, we talk about a mixed bag of compensation, and it's still not. How do you work around that?
So maybe some things, great question. Maybe some things that you could think about is to engage the person in conversation. What are your ideas of what we can do? If they are that, I don't care, I've told you already, at some point you need to leave that individual where they are, and maybe an exit strategy is what you need to look at for them. Now, if that's not part of your culture, then you do need to either put them to the side where they have less influence with others in the organization, or step by step, piece by piece, small pieces, encourage them to get involved. They've been allowed to do that in the past. That's the issue. So you're changing the culture and the strategy of the company, and it will take a period of time. Another great thing that happens is sometimes the enthusiasm from the new employees will bring those individuals along. Try some of those. It's hard. It doesn't happen overnight. Yeah.
Actually, it's a classic change management process, and it does take a long time. But going back to the earlier conversation, just to tie it together about the requirement, of course, from the funders, and the constraints that places on compensation or on recognition, somewhere along that continuum, and that goes a bit to the change management as well, there can be a very healthy conversation with a funder about outcomes. So if we are accountable for the outcomes, not the output, but the outcomes, how can we then tie it to having the productivity that is needed? So it's a different conversation. It's not just give me $10 to run a program. It is with the $10, if I deliver 100% plus 2%, I would like to have this component of recognition. And I think that there is the time now, and there is the appetite from a social justice perspective, from a real fact that money is tight, doesn't matter what we do, that if we measure the outcomes, we can have a healthier conversation. That then drives the change internally through a real change management process, through a disciplinary process, because at the end of the day, the fact that I've been with you for 15 years doesn't mean that I'm a stellar employee. It could be that I'm so scared of never finding anybody else to employ me that I'm going to stay there until you drive me out on a hearse. So, you know, accountability kicks in as well. So that's my 2 cents on that, and I am passionate.
I'm just wondering about the fairness piece. So if you're trying to be fair to your employees, you're going through this process, and there are some, like I heard a lot of this, I heard a lot of this A, B, C sort of people, and you know those people in your
while maintaining some of these things that you're talking about.
You really want to go down that road? I think we should take that offline because I heard something in there that really is not a pretty picture.
Yeah.
But
So
on
we
the
can have
Janet
that
has
But on the
conversation.
fairness, on the fairness issue, I really believe it's helping your people understand that it doesn't mean the same. Like
That's right.
that was a culture 10 years ago,
Yeah.
5 years ago. But honestly, because there's so many generations in our workplace
Yeah.
today, we need to help our people understand that it doesn't mean the same, because a 20-year-old's not going to value the same as a 50-year-old, right? So it's helping our people understand why it's not all the same, right? And they'll get it. They'll get it. But you got to engage them in that conversation. You have to help them understand.
And you need to be prepared for difficult conversations.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
at the end of the
Yeah.
day, if I'm going to engage Janet once, twice, 10 times, there won't be any 11s. And it doesn't matter how long Janet's been around, but because you cannot have that kind of differential of performance. So difficult conversations are really part of everything that we talk about.
Especially with a small group, like if you got 8 or 10 in your employee group, like often just saying, let's get the elephant out of the room. Like, let's
Yeah.
put it on, like, let's get it out, right? Because until we can actually talk about it, we can't really shift and move. So it's being up, and it's your leaders being up for those difficult conversations. But if you're not having them today, you're not probably keeping your good people, because your good people want that out on the table.
They want
and
that
won't be
out.
able to
They
talk.
want to be part of that
Yeah.
conversation. Absolutely.
And fair doesn't mean equal, it means fair,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that's where a lot of people confuse fairness with equality, and it's not the same thing. Why shouldn't a person who's a top performer have more flexibility than someone who's struggling with attendance, performance, social relationships within an organization? I am. And to answer your first question, fire them.
Fire them. Yeah.
At least Adam called the elephant in the room that
Yeah.
I was circling around.
Yeah.
That costs a lot of money.
Yes, it does. Yes,
It does. It does. However-
But it will cost more to the organization in relationship with funders,
Yes.
with clients, with the public, not to.
But you know, I don't know, it does cost a lot of money, but sometimes when you force the conversation, people make choices themselves. Because all of a sudden, it's uncomfortable to be. And they will choose that, you know, and it's about that value problem. This is no longer where I feel comfortable, so if I don't feel comfortable, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna make a choice.
I wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. I wanted to thank our excellent panelists, and Nicole, my partner in crime. I can't do this without you.